Calvin, please. Eli's burning up. I cradle my son against my chest, his small body radiating heat like a furnace. The kitchen is dim, save for the harsh glow of the microwave clock. 11:37 p.m. Calvin should have been home hours ago. The front door slams. Heavy footsteps. The briefcase hits the counter with a thud that makes me flinch. Dinner better be ready. Calvin snaps, his voice rough with irritation. I turn, Eli whimpering softly in my arms. Didn't you get my messages? Eli's sick. He needs us. Calvin scoffs, loosening his tie. He's your problem, not mine. I've got a presentation tomorrow. The words hit me like a slap. I stare at my husband, searching for any hint of the man I married. His eyes are cold, distant. When did he become this stranger? My name is Marin, and tonight, I realize my marriage is as sick as my child. I need you to run to the pharmacy, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. We're out of children's Tylenol. Calvin yanks open the fridge, grabbing a beer. Can it wait until morning? I'm beat. No, it can't wait. I snap, surprising myself with the edge in my voice. Your son has a fever of 103. He needs medicine now. Calvin slams the fridge shut, turning to face me. His eyes narrow. Don't take that tone with me. I work my ass off to provide for this family. And I don't. I challenge, shifting Eli to my hip. I'm on call 24/7, Calvin. When was the last time you changed a diaper, or made dinner, or… That's your job, he interrupts, pointing his beer at me. I didn't marry you to listen to your nagging. The words hang in the air, heavy and poisonous. I feel something inside me crack, a hairline fracture spreading through years of compromise and silence. Then why did you marry me? I ask quietly. Calvin takes a long swig of beer, his eyes never leaving mine. Because you were hot and made me look good. Why else? The truth finally laid bare. I should feel devastated, but all I feel is a strange sense of clarity, like waking from a long, confusing dream. I'll go to the pharmacy myself, I say, my voice steady. Watch Eli for 10 minutes. Calvin's face twists with annoyance. I told you I have work to do. 10 minutes, Calvin. That's all I'm asking. He sighs dramatically, setting down his beer.
Fine.
Give him here. I hesitate, then gently transfer Eli to Calvin's arms. My son whimpers, reaching for me. Sho, baby, I soothe. Mommy will be right back. I grab my purse and keys, pausing at the door to look back. Calvin is already lowering Eli onto the couch, reaching for his laptop. The cool night air hits me as I step outside, and I take a deep breath. For the first time in years, I feel awake, alert. The neighborhood is quiet, most windows dark. But in my chest, something is stirring. A spark of defiance, of possibility. I slide into the car, gripping the steering wheel. My wedding ring catches the streetlight, and I stare at it for a long moment. Then I twist it off, dropping it into the cup holder with a soft clink. As I pull out of the driveway, my mind races. I think of Eli, of the life I want for him. A life full of love and support, not coldness and neglect. I think of my own dreams, long buried under the weight of Calvin's expectations. The pharmacy sign glows in the distance. But suddenly, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go home. I want freedom. For myself and for Eli. My foot eases off the gas pedal as I approach an intersection. Left leads to the pharmacy. Right leads out of town, towards my father's house. He's always said I could come to him if I needed help. The turn signal clicks softly as I make my choice. As I accelerate down the empty road, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. This isn't the end. It's a beginning. I glance in the rearview mirror, watching the lights of my old life fade into the distance. My hands are steady on the wheel. For the first time in years, I'm driving towards something, not running away.
Eli needs me.
And I need to be the mother, the woman I know I can be. Calvin's words echo in my mind, fuel for the fire growing inside me. He thought I was just arm candy, a trophy to make him look good. I'll show him just how wrong he was. This is my story now, and I'm taking back the pen. The sun-drenched campus lawn stretches before me, a sea of possibility. I'm 22 again, clutching my art portfolio and trying not to trip in my new heels. That's when I see him. Calvin strides across the quad, all confidence and easy charm. His smile lights up his face as he catches my eye, and suddenly I'm rooted to the spot. "You look lost," he says, coming to a stop in front of me. "Need a guide?" I laugh, feeling my cheeks flush. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been looking for you," he replies with a wink. The memory fades, replaced by the harsh fluorescent light of my father's kitchen. I blink, disoriented. Eli sleeps peacefully in the next room, his fever finally broken. It's been 3 days since I left Calvin, and the memories keep ambushing me. "You okay, sweetheart?" My dad, Lyle, sets a steaming mug of coffee in front of me. I nod, wrapping my hands around the warmth. Just remembering. Lyle's eyes crinkle with concern. "The good times?" "The beginning," I say softly. "When I thought Calvin hung the moon." My father settles into the chair across from me. He was charming, I'll give him that. Had us all fooled for a while. I take a sip of coffee, letting the bitterness ground me in the present. I keep trying to pinpoint when it changed, when the charm became something else. Lyle reaches across the table, covering my hand with his.
Oiti was gradual, Marin.
Like a frog in boiling water. By the time you realized how bad things had gotten, you were in too deep. I nod, fighting back tears. "I feel so stupid, Dad. How did I not see it?" "You saw what you wanted to see," he says gently. "What he wanted you to see. That's not your fault." A soft cry from the guest room interrupts us. I'm on my feet in an instant, maternal instinct overriding everything else. Eli is sitting up in bed, rubbing his eyes. "Mommy?" "I'm here, baby," I soothe, gathering him into my arms. He snuggles against me, and I breathe in his sweet, sleep-warm scent. "Where's Daddy?" he mumbles. The question pierces my heart. "Daddy's at home, sweetheart. We're staying with Grandpa for a little while." Eli pulls back, his blue eyes, so like Calvin's, searching my face. "Are you and Daddy fighting?" I swallow hard, choosing my words carefully. "Mommy and Daddy are taking some time apart. But we both love you very, very much. That will never change." He seems to accept this, burrowing back against my chest. I rock him gently, my mind drifting to another memory. Calvin and I, dancing at our wedding reception. His arms around me, his lips brushing my ear as he whispers, "You've made me the happiest man alive." I believed him then, with every fiber of my being. How could I have known that happiest for Calvin meant most convenient? That is, love came with conditions I'd spend years trying to meet? Eli's breathing evens out, and I lay him back down, tucking the covers around him. As I turn to leave, I catch sight of myself in the mirror above the dresser. I barely recognize the woman staring back at me. She looks tired, worn down, but there's something else in her eyes. A spark of determination I haven't seen in years. Back in the kitchen, Lyle is waiting with a fresh cup of coffee and a sympathetic smile. "How's our little man?" Confused, I sigh, sinking back into my chair. He asked about Calvin. Lyle nods, his expression grave. "That's to be expected.
Kids are resilient, though."
He'll adjust." "I hope so," I murmur. I want to do right by him, Dad. I don't want him growing up thinking this is what love looks like." "You're doing the right thing, Marin," Lyle says firmly, breaking the cycle. "It takes courage." I manage a small smile. I don't feel very courageous.
"But you are," he insists.
"You're reclaiming your life, your independence. That's no small feat." As if on cue, my phone buzzes. It's an email from the graphic design firm I applied to last week. With trembling fingers, I open it. "Dad." I breathe, hardly daring to believe it. "They want to interview me." Lyle's face breaks into a wide grin. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." "When?" "Next Tuesday," I say, scanning the email. It's a remote position, so the interview will be over video call. For the first time in days, I feel a flutter of excitement in my chest. This could be it, My chance to rebuild, to create a life for Eli and me that isn't dependent on Calvin's whims. As I start making plans for the interview, another memory surfaces. Calvin sneering at my art supplies. Cute hobby, he'd said. But it's time to grow up, Marin. Focus on what really matters. I'd packed away my sketchbooks that day, burying my dreams along with them.
But now,
I look at my dad, at the proud smile on his face, and I make a silent vow. No more burying myself. No more shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. It's time to reclaim the woman I used to be, the one who believed in her talents, who dreamed big, the one Calvin tried to erase. Watch out, world. Marin 2.0 is coming. The doorbell chimes, its cheerful tone at odds with the knot in my stomach. I smooth my dress, take a deep breath, and plaster on a smile. Ready? I ask Eli, who's fidgeting with his bow tie. He nods solemnly. Ready, Mommy. I open the door, and there's Calvin, looking annoyingly handsome in a crisp suit. His eyes narrow as they sweep over me. You're wearing that? He asks, his tone dripping with disapproval. I resist the urge to roll my eyes. Hello to you too, Calvin. Yes, I'm wearing this. Let's go, we're already late. The drive to his parents' house is tense, filled with Calvin's pointed comments about my appearance, Eli's behavior, and my attitude. By the time we pull into the driveway, I'm gritting my teeth so hard my jaw aches. Irene opens the door before we even reach it, her smile tight and brittle. There you are. We were beginning to worry. Sorry, Mom, Calvin says, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Marin took forever to get ready. I bite back a retort, focusing instead on helping Eli out of his car seat. Irene's eyes rake over me, her disapproval palpable. Well, come in, she says, ushering us inside. Everyone's waiting. The dining room is a tableau of forced civility. Calvin's father, Arthur, nods gruffly from the head of the table. Faye, Calvin's sister, offers me a small smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Dinner is a minefield of backhanded compliments and thinly veiled criticisms, most directed at me. Irene leads the charge, her words sharp as knives. So, Marin, she says, delicately dabbing her mouth with a napkin, have you given any thought to going back to work? It must be so unfulfilling, being just a housewife. I feel Calvin stiffen beside me. Mom, he warns, but Irene waves him off. I'm just saying, dear. A woman needs purpose beyond changing diapers and making dinner. I take a sip of wine, buying time. Actually, Irene, I've been thinking about getting back into graphic design. I've kept up with industry trends and… Oh, that's nice, Irene interrupts, her tone dismissive. A little hobby to keep you busy. But really, Calvin needs a wife who can support his career. Networking is so important these days. I feel something snap inside me. Years of biting my tongue, of shrinking myself to fit into their mold, come rushing to the surface. You know what, Irene? I say, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling up. I think what Calvin really needs is to grow up and take responsibility for his own life. And maybe, just maybe, appreciate the wife he has instead of treating her like a servant. The table falls silent. Calvin's face is a mask of shock and fury. Irene looks like she's been slapped. It's Faye who breaks the tension, letting out a surprised laugh. Well, it's about time someone said it. Faye! Irene hisses, but her daughter ignores her.
No, Mom. Marin's right.
We've all been tiptoeing around Calvin's ego for years. It's exhausting. I shoot Faye a grateful look, feeling a spark of unexpected kinship. Calvin pushes back from the table, his chair scraping loudly. This is ridiculous. Marin, we're leaving.
Now.
No, I say quietly, surprising even myself. I'm not done eating. And neither is Eli. Our eyes lock in a silent battle of wills. For the first time, I see a flicker of uncertainty in Calvin's gaze. Fine, he spits out. I'll be in the car. As he storms out, I turn back to my plate, hands shaking slightly. The room is thick with tension. Well, Arthur says gruffly, speaking for the first time all evening. Pass the potatoes, would you? The rest of the meal passes in awkward silence. As we're clearing the table, Faye corners me in the kitchen. "Hey," she says softly. "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you for standing up to them." I blink, surprised. "Thanks, Faye. I didn't think anyone in this family was on my side." She glances around, making sure we're alone. "Listen, Marin, there's something you should know about Calvin.
He's not.
He's not who you think he is." My heart races. "What do you mean?" Faye opens her mouth to respond, but Irene's sharp voice cuts through the air.
Faye.
"Come help me with dessert." Faye squeezes my arm. "We'll talk later, okay? Just be careful." As I watch her go, my mind whirls. What does Faye know? And how will it change everything? The drive home is silent, Calvin's anger radiating off him in waves. Eli has fallen asleep in the back seat, blissfully unaware of the tension. As we pull into our driveway, Calvin finally speaks. "You embarrassed me tonight." I turn to face him, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "No, Calvin. You embarrassed yourself." I get out of the car, gently lifting Eli into my arms. As I walk towards the house, I hear Calvin call out behind me. "This isn't over, Marin." I pause at the door, looking back at him. In the dim porch light, I see not the charming man I fell in love with, but a stranger, petty, controlling, and suddenly very small. "You're right," I say softly. "It's just beginning." I close the door behind me, locking it with a decisive click. As I carry Eli to his room, I feel something unfurling in my chest. It feels a lot like hope. The soft glow of my laptop screen illuminates the kitchen as I hunch over it, fingers flying across the keyboard. It's 2 a.m., and the house is silent except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator. This is my time, stolen moments while Calvin and Eli sleep, where I can breathe, think, and plan. I'm updating my portfolio, polishing old projects and creating new ones. The familiar rush of creativity courses through me, a sensation I'd almost forgotten. It feels like coming home to myself. A notification pops up, another job listing that matches my skills. I click on it, heart racing as I read the description. Remote work, flexible hours, decent pay. It's perfect. Before I can talk myself out of it, I hit apply. As my application whooshes off into the digital ether, I lean back, exhaling slowly. This is it. The first concrete step towards independence. A floorboard creaks upstairs and I freeze. Footsteps.
Calvin.
I quickly close my laptop, shoving it into a drawer just as he appears in the doorway, squinting against the light. "What are you doing up?" he grumbles, voice thick with sleep. "Couldn't sleep." I lie smoothly. "Just getting some water." Calvin grunts, clearly uninterested. "Come back to bed. I have an early meeting." I nod, following him upstairs. As I slide under the covers, my mind races with possibilities. For the first time in years, I feel a flicker of hope. The next morning, I'm making Eli's lunch when my phone buzzes. It's an email from the company I applied to last night. They want to schedule an interview. Excitement bubbles up inside me, but I force it down. I can't let Calvin suspect anything. Not yet. "Mommy, can I have apple slices?" Eli asks, tugging at my sleeve. I smile down at him, ruffling his hair. "Of course, sweetie. Let's cut them together." As we work side by side, I study my son's face. He looks so much like Calvin, the same blue eyes, the same dimpled smile. But there's a gentleness in Eli that his father lacks. A softness I'm determined to protect. "Eli, honey," I say carefully. "You know Mommy loves you very much, right?" He nods, mouth full of apple. "And no matter what happens, that will never change. You understand." Eli swallows, looking up at me with those big eyes. "Are you and Daddy getting a divorce?" The question catches me off guard. "Why do you ask that, sweetie?" He shrugs, suddenly very interested in his apple slice. "Tommy at school said his parents got a divorce. He said they fought a lot, like you and Daddy do." My heart clenches. I kneel down, taking Eli's small hands in mine. "I don't know what's going to happen, Eli. But I promise you, whatever happens, you will always be loved and taken care of." "Okay." He nods solemnly, then throws his arms around my neck. I hold him tight, blinking back tears. Later that day, while Eli's at preschool, I sneak into Calvin's home office. I hate myself for doing this, but Faye's warning echoes in my mind. I need to know what I'm dealing with. I boot up his computer, grateful he never changes his password. As I scroll through his emails, my stomach drops. There are messages from women, lots of women. Flirtatious exchanges, hotel reservations, explicit photos. But it's the financial records that really make me sick. Calvin's been siphoning money into a secret account for years. Thousands of dollars hidden away. I sit back, stunned. All those times he complained about money being tight, about not being able to afford new clothes for Eli or repairs for the house. All lies. As I'm processing this, I hear the front door open. Calvin's home early. Panic surges through me. I quickly close everything, shutting down the computer. I'm halfway to the door when Calvin appears in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" he asks, eyes narrowing suspiciously. I force a smile. "Just tidying up." "You left some papers out." Calvin stares at me for a long moment, and I'm sure he can hear my heart pounding. Finally, he nods.
Fine.
"But stay out of my office from now on." I slip past him, retreating to the safety of the kitchen. As I lean against the counter, trying to steady my breathing, my phone buzzes. It's an email confirming my interview for tomorrow. In that moment, everything crystallizes. I can't stay here. Not with a man who's been lying to me, cheating on me, stealing from our family. I need to get out, for my sake and for Eli's. I take a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. It's time to put my plan into action. Tomorrow I'll ace that interview. I'll secure our future. And then, when the time is right, Eli and I will walk out that door and never look back. Calvin may think he holds all the cards, but he's about to learn just how wrong he is. I am not the meek, submissive wife he thinks I am. I am a force to be reckoned with. And I'm done playing by his rules. The suitcase sits on the bed, a silent testament to my resolve. I fold Eli's favorite dinosaur pajamas, tucking them carefully between layers of clothes. My hands shake slightly, but my mind is clear. It's time. Eli's fever broke yesterday, and with it, the last of my hesitation. I secured the job, a remote position with a promising design firm. Now, all that's left is to leave. I hear the front door open and close. Calvin's home early. My heart races as I zip the suitcase closed and slide it under the bed. "Marin?" Calvin's voice echoes from downstairs. "Where are you?" I take a deep breath, steeling myself. "Up here," I call back, trying to keep my voice steady. Calvin appears in the doorway, loosening his tie. His eyes narrow as he takes in the scene, the slightly disheveled room, my flushed face. "What's going on?" he asks, suspicion lacing his tone. I force a smile. "Just doing some spring cleaning." "How is work?" He grunts, clearly uninterested.
Fine.
"Is dinner ready?" "I'll start it now," I say, slipping past him. As I prepare dinner, my mind races. I need to time this perfectly. Calvin has a business trip tomorrow. That's my window. I've already called my dad, Lyle. He's expecting us. Eli chatters happily through dinner, oblivious to the tension. Calvin barely looks up from his phone. It's a typical evening in our household, but tonight, everything feels different. Charged, like the air before a storm. After tucking Eli in, I retreat to the guest room where I've been sleeping lately. I pull out my phone, texting Faye. "It's happening tomorrow. Thank you for everything." Her reply comes quickly. "Stay safe. Call if you need anything." I lay awake for hours, listening to the sounds of the house. Calvin snoring, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, counting down the minutes until our escape. Morning comes too slowly and too quickly all at once. I go through the motions of our normal routine, making breakfast, packing Calvin's suitcase, kissing him goodbye. As soon as his car disappears around the corner, I spring into action. "Eli, sweetie," I say, kneeling down to his level. "We're going on a little trip to Grandpa's house. Doesn't that sound fun?" His eyes light up. "Can I bring Rex?" he asks, clutching his stuffed T-Rex. "Of course," I smile, fighting back tears. Rex's family, too. We're halfway to my dad's house when my phone starts buzzing incessantly.
Calvin.
I silence it, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Mommy, Eli's voice pipes up from the back seat. Is Daddy coming to Grandpa's too? I swallow hard.
No, sweetie.
It's just going to be us for a while. But why? He asks, his lower lip trembling. I take a deep breath. Sometimes, Eli, grown-ups need time apart to figure things out. But I promise you, both Daddy and I love you very much. That will never change. He seems to accept this, turning his attention back to Rex. I blink back tears, focusing on the road ahead. My dad is waiting on the porch when we pull up. His face creases with concern as he helps us unload the car. You okay, sweetheart? He asks softly. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. Eli runs to him, shouting, Grandpa. And just like that, the tension breaks. As we settle into my childhood home, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I can breathe freely. My phone buzzes again, a voicemail from Calvin. With shaking hands, I press play. Marin, where the hell are you? His voice is a mixture of anger and panic. I came home early and you're gone. You can't just take my son like this. Call me back immediately, or I swear to God, I'll. I delete the message before he can finish his threat. My dad appears in the doorway, concern etched on his face. That was him, wasn't it? He asks. I nod, sinking onto the bed. He's furious, Dad. What if he tries to take Eli? Dad sits beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. We won't let that happen. I've already called my lawyer friend. We'll get everything sorted out, I promise. As the sun sets, casting a warm glow through the windows, I watch Eli playing in the backyard. He's laughing, carefree, as he chases fireflies with my dad. My phone buzzes again, another call from Calvin. This time, I answer. Marin, I swear to God. Stop, I interrupt, my voice stronger than I feel. It's over, Calvin. I know about the affairs, the secret bank account. I'm done being your doormat. There's a long pause. When Calvin speaks again, his voice is low, dangerous. You'll regret this, Marin. I'll make sure of it. I hang up, my hands shaking but my resolve firm. I know the road ahead won't be easy. Calvin won't let us go without a fight. But as I watch my son's joyful face, I know it's worth it. This is just the beginning of our new life. And for the first time in years, I'm not afraid of what tomorrow might bring. The sharp knock on the door shatters the peaceful afternoon. I freeze, my hands hovering over my laptop keyboard. Eli looks up from his coloring book, eyes wide. Mommy, he whispers, fear creeping into his voice. I force a smile. It's okay, sweetie. Why don't you go play in your room for a bit? As soon as Eli's out of sight, I meet my dad's gaze. He nods grimly, moving towards the door. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. The door swings open, revealing Calvin. He's a far cry from the polished executive I've known for years. His shirt is rumpled, his hair disheveled. Dark circles rim his bloodshot eyes. Where's she? He demands, trying to push past my dad. Calvin, my dad's voice is firm. You need to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down, Calvin shouts. She took my son. I step into view, my heart pounding but my voice steady. I'm right here, Calvin. His eyes lock onto me, a mixture of relief and fury. Marin, he says, his tone softening slightly. Come on, this is ridiculous. Let's go home and talk about this. I shake my head. There's nothing to talk about. It's over. Calvin's face darkens. You can't do this. You can't just leave. What about our life? Our family? What family? I retort, feeling years of pent-up frustration bubbling to the surface. The one you ignored, the one you cheated on. He flinches, as if I'd slapped him. You don't understand. I've been under so much pressure at work. Save it, I interrupt. I know about the secret bank account, Calvin. I know about the affairs. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? For a moment, he looks genuinely shocked. Then his expression hardens. You went through my things? You had no right. I had every right. I snap. I'm your wife. Or I was. And more importantly, I'm Eli's mother. I have a responsibility to protect him from your lies and manipulation. Calvin's eyes narrow. Is that what this is about?
Money?
Fine, I'll give you access to the account. We can work this out. I laugh, the sound bitter even to my own ears. This isn't about money, Calvin. It's about respect. It's about building a life with someone who sees me as a partner, not a possession. He takes a step forward, but my dad moves to block him. You're making a mistake, Marin, Calvin says, his voice low and dangerous. I'll fight you on this. I'll take Eli. You know I have the resources to make your life hell. I feel a flicker of fear, but I push it down. Go ahead and try, I say, meeting his gaze. But you should know, I'm not the same woman you married. I have a job now. A good one. I can support myself and Eli without your money. Calvin's eyes widen in disbelief. You're bluffing. I smile, feeling a surge of pride. I'm not. I started last week as a remote graphic designer. Turns out I'm pretty good at it. Better than you ever gave me credit for. For the first time, I see a crack in Calvin's confident facade. He looks
Lost. Confused.
like he's seeing me for the first time. You can't do this, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. I already have. I reply softly. It's over, Calvin. Go home. He stands there for a long moment, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. I can almost see the wheels turning in his head, searching for a way to regain control. Finally, he speaks, his voice cold. This isn't over. I'll be back with my lawyer. You'll regret this, Marin. As he turns to leave, I call out. No, Calvin. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. The door slams behind him. I let out a shaky breath, feeling my knees go weak. My dad wraps an arm around my shoulders, steadying me. You did good, sweetheart, he murmurs. I'm so proud of you. I nod, tears pricking at my eyes. He'll be back, won't he? Probably, Dad sighs. But we'll be ready. You're not alone in this. A small voice pipes up from a hallway. Mommy? I turn to see Eli peeking around the corner, his stuffed dinosaur clutched tightly to his chest. My heart aches at the fear in his eyes. Kneeling down, I open my arms. He runs to me, burying his face in my neck. It's okay, baby. I soothe, running my hand through his hair. Everything's going to be okay. As I hold my son, I feel a strange mix of emotions. Fear of the battle ahead. Sadness for the life I'm leaving behind. But underneath it all, a growing sense of strength and possibility. Calvin may have resources and connections, but I have something he can't buy or manipulate. The fierce love of a mother protecting her child. And I'm just beginning to realize how powerful that can be. I meet my dad's gaze over Eli's head. He nods, a silent promise of support. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. For the first time in years, I feel truly alive. The road ahead won't be easy, but it's mine to choose. And I'm ready to fight for the future Eli and I deserve. The courthouse looms before me, its stone facade cold and imposing. I take a deep breath, smoothing down my blouse. This is it, the final showdown. You ready? My dad asks, giving my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. I nod, my jaw set. As I'll ever be. We climb the steps, my heels clicking against the marble. Inside, our lawyer, Sarah, waits for us. Her smile is confident, but I can see the tension in her eyes. Remember, she says in a low voice, stay calm, no matter what Calvin throws at us. We have the evidence on our side. I nod, thinking of the documents tucked safely in Sarah's briefcase. Bank statements, phone records, hotel receipts, a paper trail of Calvin's betrayal. As we enter the courtroom, I spot Calvin and his lawyer at the opposite table. Calvin looks immaculate in his tailored suit, but there's a wildness in his eyes that I've never seen before. He looks desperate. The judge enters and we all rise. As the proceedings begin, I force myself to focus on Sarah's calm, measured voice as she presents our case. She outlines Calvin's infidelity, his financial deceptions, his emotional neglect of Eli and me. I risk a glance at Calvin. His face is a mask of fury, his knuckles white as he grips the edge of the table. Then it's Calvin's turn. His lawyer paints a picture of me as an unstable, vindictive woman who tore apart a happy family out of spite. He claims I'm unfit to care for Eli, that I've poisoned him against his father. Your Honor, Calvin's lawyer says, his voice dripping with false concern, Mrs. Reeves has a history of emotional instability. We have witnesses who can attest to her erratic behavior. My heart races. What witnesses? Who would? The courtroom doors open, and Irene sweeps in, her face a picture of righteous indignation. Of course. Calvin's mother, come to seal my fate. Irene takes the stand, her eyes never leaving mine as she speaks. Marin has always been difficult, she says, her voice quavering with what I'm sure she thinks is convincing emotion. Moody, unpredictable. I've often feared for my grandson's well-being in her care. I feel a surge of anger, but Sarah's hand on my arm keeps me grounded. We expected this. We're prepared. When it's our turn for cross-examination, Sarah approaches Irene with a predatory smile. Mrs. Reeves, she says sweetly, can you recall the exact instances of this erratic behavior you claim to have witnessed? Irene falters, her confident facade cracking. Well, there were many times. Specific instances, please, Sarah presses. Irene fumbles, offering vague generalities that Sarah easily picks apart. By the time she steps down, Irene looks shaken, and I feel a glimmer of hope. Next, it's my turn to take the stand. I meet Calvin's gaze as I walk past him. For a moment, I see a flicker of the man I fell in love with, vulnerable, uncertain. But it's quickly replaced by a cold, calculating stare. I take a deep breath and begin my testimony. I speak of the years of emotional neglect, of feeling invisible in my own home. I describe finding evidence of Calvin's affairs, of the secret bank account he'd hidden from me. And how did these discoveries make you feel, Mrs. Reeves? Sarah asks gently. I swallow hard, fighting back tears. Betrayed. Worthless. Like everything I'd built my life on was a lie. I see Calvin shift uncomfortably in his seat. And what about your son, Eli? Sarah continues. How has Mr. Reeves' behavior affected him? This is the moment I've been dreading. I close my eyes briefly, steeling myself. Eli used to cry himself to sleep, asking why Daddy never wanted to play with him. He thought it was his fault that Calvin was always angry or absent. A soft gasp ripples through the courtroom. I risk a glance at Calvin. He's staring at the table, his face ashen. No further questions, Your Honor, Sarah says, returning to her seat. Calvin's lawyer stands for cross-examination, but I can see the defeat in his eyes. He asks a few half-hearted questions, trying to paint me as exaggerating or misinterpreting events. But my resolve is unshakable. As I step down from the stand, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time, I've told my story, our story, without fear or shame. The judge calls a recess to review the evidence. As we file out of the courtroom, I feel Calvin's eyes on me. I turn to meet his gaze. For a long moment, we just stare at each other. I see a myriad of emotions flicker across his face, anger, confusion, and finally, a dawning realization. He opens his mouth as if to speak, then closes it again. I give him a small, sad smile before turning away. Whatever he has to say, it's too late. I've found my strength, my voice. And I'm never going back to the silence. As I join my dad and Sarah in the hallway, I feel a surge of hope. The battle isn't over, but for the first time, I truly believe I can win. Not just the court case, but my freedom, my self-respect, and a future where Eli and I can thrive. The courthouse clock ticks steadily, counting down the moments until the judge's decision. But I'm no longer afraid of what it might bring. Whatever happens, I know I've already won the most important battle, the one within myself. The morning sun streams through the curtains, painting the room in a warm glow. I stretch, savoring the quiet moment before Eli wakes. It's been 6 months since the court ruling, 6 months of building our new life. I pad downstairs, the hardwood cool beneath my feet. Dad's already in the kitchen, brewing coffee. He smiles as I enter, sliding a mug towards me. Big day today, he says softly. I nod, wrapping my hands around the warm ceramic. I can't believe it's finally happening. We're moving out today into a small house I've rented on the outskirts of town. It's nothing fancy, but it's ours, a fresh start for Eli and me. As if summoned by my thoughts, I hear the patter of little feet on the stairs. Eli bursts into the kitchen, his hair a wild mess, eyes bright with excitement. "Is it time to go to our new house, Mommy?" he asks, bouncing on his toes. I scoop him up, planting a kiss on his cheek. "Almost, buddy. We've got to eat breakfast and finish packing first." The morning passes in a whirlwind of activity. Dad helps us load the last of our belongings into the moving truck while I do a final sweep of the house. In my old room, I pause, running my hand along the windowsill where I used to sit and dream of a different life. "You okay, sweetheart?" Dad's voice startles me from my reverie. I turn, smiling.
Yeah.
Just remembering. He nods, understanding in his eyes. "You've come a long way, Marin. I'm so proud of you." Tears prick at my eyes as I hug him fiercely.
Thank you, Dad.
For everything. As we're about to leave, a car pulls up. My heart skips a beat as I recognize it. Calvin. "What's he doing here?" Dad mutters, moving protectively in front of me. I take a deep breath. "It's okay. I've got this." Calvin steps out of the car, looking uncertain. He's lost weight, the circles under his eyes more pronounced. For a moment, I feel a pang of sympathy. "Marin," he says, his voice hoarse. I needed to see you before you left." I cross my arms, waiting. Calvin runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it makes my chest ache. "I'm sorry," he says finally, "for everything. I know it's too late, but I needed you to know that." I study him, searching for any hint of manipulation. But all I see is genuine remorse. "Thank you," I say softly. "That means a lot." Calvin nods, his eyes darting to the house. "Is Eli?" On cue, Eli appears in the doorway. His eyes light up when he sees Calvin. "Daddy." Calvin kneels, opening his arms. Eli hesitates, looking to me for permission. I nod, and he runs to his father. As I watch them embrace, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders. This is what I wanted, for Eli to have a relationship with his father, free from the toxicity of our failed marriage. Calvin stands, Eli in his arms. "I've been going to therapy," he says, meeting my gaze. "Working on myself. I want to be a better father to Eli. A better person." I smile, genuinely happy for him. "That's great, Calvin." "Really?" He sets Eli down, ruffling his hair. "You be good for your mom, okay, buddy? I'll see you next weekend." As Calvin drives away, I feel a sense of closure. The anger and hurt that have defined our relationship for so long are fading, replaced by a cautious hope for a new kind of family dynamic. Dad clears his throat. "Ready to go?" I nod, taking Eli's hand. We climb into the truck, Eli chattering excitedly about his new room. As we pull away from the curb, I watch my childhood home recede in the rearview mirror. The drive to our new house is short, but it feels momentous. Each mile is a step further from my old life, closer to the future I've fought so hard for. As we pull up to the little blue house, my heart swells. It's not much, but it's ours. A blank canvas for new memories, new dreams. Eli races up the front walk, impatient to explore. "Dad," and I follow more slowly, arms laden with boxes. Inside, the house is filled with afternoon sunlight. The rooms are small but cozy, already starting to feel like home. As I set down a box in the living room, my gaze falls on my easel in the corner. A half-finished painting sits on it, my first commission for my new freelance business. Dad appears in the doorway, a knowing smile on his face. "So, what do you think?" I turn in a slow circle, taking it all in. The toys scattered on the floor, the family photos waiting to be hung, the smell of fresh paint and new beginnings. "It's perfect," I say, my voice thick with emotion. Later, after Dad has left and Eli is tucked into his new bed, I sit on the front porch. The night is warm, crickets chirping in the distance. I think about the long road that led me here, the pain, the fear, the moments of doubt. But I also think about the strength I've discovered, the support I've found in unexpected places. I think about Eli, sleeping peacefully, free from the tension that used to fill our home. As I look up at the stars, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. The future is uncertain, but for the first time in years, I'm excited to face it. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm thriving. Tomorrow, I'll wake up in my new home, ready to tackle whatever challenges come my way. I'll paint, I'll laugh with Eli, I'll build the life I've always dreamed of. Because now I know the truth. I am strong enough. I am brave enough. And this is just the beginning of our story.
I'm Amelia. A few weeks back, I lost my dad after a long struggle with his health. I often catch myself wishing I could have introduced him to his grandchildren, a thought that brings a heavy sigh. 6 years ago, at 35, I got married. During that joyful day, my dad and I made a heartfelt promise. I would tell him first if I was expecting. Sadly, that's a promise I'll never fulfill, and it's my biggest regret concerning my dad. His sickness was diagnosed a year ago, and since then, I've put all my effort into being there for him. I visited my childhood home more often, spent numerous hours at the hospital alongside my mom, and made sure to call or video chat even more frequently. Despite all this, I sometimes wonder if it could have been enough. I could have done more, I whispered, lost in thought. My mom, always supportive, comforted me. Amelia, you did everything you could. Your dad knew that, and he was proud. Just then, my sister, Freya, walked in followed by a man I guessed was around 48, presumably the lawyer. "This is Jack, the attorney," she introduced him, and my mom quickly offered him a seat. As soon as we all settled down, Freya couldn't help herself. The lawyer mentioned Dad left us a significant inheritance. I couldn't help but respond, "Freya, you know it's not all yours." That exchange soured the mood instantly. My sister and I had a rocky relationship, worsened by our dad's illness. Her refusal to visit our dad, despite my attempts to bridge the gap between them, didn't help matters. Her attitude has always been a barrier, and it only grew more pronounced during these tough times. In hindsight, my words to my sister might have been a bit too sharp, fueled by my concern for our father. However, her response didn't help the situation either. "You're grown up. There's no need to be so obstinate," I pointed out, to which she snapped back, "I'm not being obstinate." Living in the city and traveling to the countryside isn't as simple as you think. "It's just a 3-hour drive," I countered, but she argued. Those 3 hours are not just about time, it costs money. And yes, money is important to me. "I'm busy, so please just stop nagging me." That marked the end of our conversation. Despite the distance, I always believed she could make an effort to visit now and then. This belief was a major factor in the swift decline of our relationship. Ultimately, she never visited our father, and the rift between us only deepened. The tension in the room grew until the lawyer stepped in, suggesting we all take a moment to calm down. "I'm sorry," I said, offering an apology which seemed to ease the atmosphere slightly. The lawyer then explained, "As I mentioned over the phone, I'm here regarding your father's will." My mother, puzzled, whispered, "When was this arranged?" The lawyer replied, "A few weeks before he passed." "Your father reached out to me. He asked you to come to the hospital." My mother asked, "Yes, I drafted the will there with him in the presence of his primary doctor. It was arranged that the doctor would notify me upon your father's passing, which is why I contacted you now," the lawyer clarified, pulling out a white envelope and placing it before us. Recognizing my father's handwriting on the envelope, I whispered, "That's definitely Dad's handwriting." Freya, visibly impatient, demanded, "Just get on with it." "What does it say?" "You know I'm busy." The lawyer, with a hint of a smile, opened the envelope. Inside, there was a single piece of paper outlining the inheritance: the house, land, some savings, and a storage shed. We were aware of the house and land, but the mention of a storage shed was new to me. My sister, frustrated, turned to the lawyer. "Wait, what about the farm?" The lawyer echoed, a bit surprised. "Yes, the farm. Dad used to work on it as a hobby," I explained. Our father had run a successful business in a nearby town, but decided to slow down after turning 52, considering closing the company to spend more time on his hobbies, including the farm. This new mention of the farm added another layer of complexity to our father's legacy and what he left behind. During my high school years, I remember expressing a desire to take things a bit slower in life. My sister, who was attending college at the time, didn't agree with this laid-back approach. However, both my mom and I, concerned about my dad's health, supported the idea. "Don't fret over finances, Freya. We're well prepared with savings," my dad comforted her. With some reluctance, she gave her nod of approval. Following this conversation, my father indeed wound down his business operations and took up farming close to our home. "There's something fulfilling about working with the land," he would say, his face lighting up with joy. Witnessing his happiness reinforced my belief that we had made the right decision, though Freya seemed less convinced. Despite promising to return home post-graduation, she pursued a career close to her university, eventually marrying the CEO of an IT firm she met through her job. That's the backdrop to my father embracing farming until his health declined. Freya insisted the farm be considered part of the inheritance. Upon her insistence, the lawyer re-examined the documents and uncovered that the farm was actually leased land. I thought aloud, mistakenly believing we owned a substantial tract of land. Freya appeared visibly let down by this revelation. The realization that the expansive land my father had used for vegetable farming was leased seemed to ease my initial disappointment. Knowing little about farming ourselves, perhaps it was for the best. The discussion then pivoted to how the inheritance would be divided. "The house and the surrounding land will go to the wife," the lawyer outlined. Freya smirked, perhaps thinking about the remainder of the assets and how they would be split. "The rest, including the savings and the storage shed, should be divided between you three," the lawyer suggested. "Savings, that means cash, right?" "I'll take that," Freya stated, eyeing the liquidity. The total savings amount to approximately $100,000. "This sum is not subject to inheritance tax," the lawyer informed us. "I want the $100,000 in cash," Freya declared with a sense of victory. But such a one-sided arrangement didn't sit right with me, and I voiced my objection. "Hold on, I don't agree. Why should you get all the cash?" I protested. "Because I'm the eldest," she argued, as if that settled it. "Fine, you can have the storage shed. What's that even worth anyway?" she dismissively added, turning her attention back to the lawyer for further clarification. "It's the shed adjacent to the farm. Whoever inherits it will own the structure, the land it's on, and anything inside it," the lawyer explained. Suddenly interested, Freya's attitude shifted at the mention of additional land. It struck me as odd, married to a successful CEO, yet her appetite for more seemed insatiable. As the lawyer explained the details about the storage shed, he mentioned it came with a small patch of land, roughly 75 square feet, about the size of a cozy bedroom. He then laid out some photographs of the shed for us to see, showing its exterior and interior. The shed looked quite neglected from the outside, and inside it housed only simple gardening tools like hoses, scissors, and shovels. Nothing that caught the eye as particularly valuable. My sister made a face of distaste upon seeing the photos. "I don't want this," she declared, scrutinizing the images. They indeed showed nothing more than everyday items, valuable more for their memories than any monetary worth. Fine, you take the cash. I want nothing to do with that rundown shed, she stated clearly, eager to distance herself from what she saw as an unworthy inheritance. Hold on, that seems unfair, I protested, realizing the imbalance in the division. My sister had swiftly agreed to take the cash, knowing it was the more valuable asset, leaving me with what she saw as worthless. Her insistence made me feel cornered, especially when my mother mentioned, "As long as Freya doesn't voice any complaints later, I see no issue with this arrangement." Complaint? Why would I? Freya quickly agreed to the division, content with securing the cash for herself, leaving me with the shed. I couldn't hide my dissatisfaction, but before I could argue further, Freya dismissed my concerns, accusing me of being overly sentimental. "You care more about our father than money, right?" she challenged, leaving me momentarily lost for words. Indeed, family should be valued over money, but her swift conclusion to the conversation left me feeling unsettled. In the end, my mother inherited the house and land. Freya happily took all of Dad's savings, and I was left with the neglected shed. After agreeing to the division, Freya even signed a document promising not to raise any disputes over how the inheritance was split, laughing confidently as she did so. I couldn't contain my frustration and later expressed my grievances to my mother. "Why didn't you support me?" I asked, feeling let down. My mother insisted she had helped, claiming her intervention had ensured I received the shed. "But I'm not pleased with just the shed," I argued, unable to see its value. "You might discover something unexpectedly wonderful if you give it a chance," my mom suggested optimistically. Despite my frustrations, her words sparked a faint glimmer of hope. Maybe there was more to the shed than met the eye, a thought that left me pondering as I tried to reconcile the day's events. After receiving the key from the lawyer, I made my way to the shed, situated beside the field, a serene 20-minute walk from our house along a rarely trodden rural path. The field, which my father had leased until his recent hospitalization, lay fallow, giving the surroundings an untouched, solemn atmosphere. Unlocking the shed, I was greeted by a thick layer of dust, a testament to its long neglect. "Wow, it's dusty," I remarked, the air heavy with the scent of disuse. Despite the initial disappointment, I held on to the hope that something of my father's, a keepsake perhaps, might be hidden within. As I surveyed the interior, it quickly became apparent that the shed was exactly as it seemed, a simple, utilitarian space filled with the tools of farming. These items, while potentially holding sentimental value, didn't immediately stand out as particularly special. Maybe I should just take what's inside for now, I considered, my eyes scanning the dim, cluttered environment. That's when I sensed something peculiar about the shed's dimensions. It appeared smaller on the inside than it did from the outside, a discrepancy that puzzled me. Could it have been a trick of the light, or was my mind playing tricks on me? Stepping outside for a clearer perspective, I remained intrigued by the anomaly. Driven by curiosity, I decided to explore the shed's exterior, circling to its rear. There, hidden among a dense thicket of trees, I discovered a second door. Wait, another entrance. I gasped. The interior wall of the shed had shown no signs of this door from the inside. It seemed as if there was only one way in or out. This realization hinted at a concealed space accessible only from this mysterious rear entry. A surge of excitement washed over me. Could this be one of Dad's secrets? He had a penchant for surprises, delighting in the unexpected joys they brought, much like the surprises he planned for my birthdays. Memories of those times brought tears to my eyes as I re-entered the shed, determined to find the key to this hidden door. Sure enough, after a thorough search, I found 3 keys ingeniously hidden within the handle of a shovel. Rushing to the rear door with a hopeful heart, I inserted one of the keys, and with a satisfying click, the door swung open. Inside this cramped, secluded space stood a large safe, solitary and imposing. "Is this from Dad's company?" I wondered aloud, the presence of the safe sparking a whirlwind of questions. What secrets did it hold? Was this my father's way of leaving a final, tangible piece of himself behind? The discovery hinted at layers of my father's life that I had yet to uncover, a personal treasure hunt he had laid out for me to embark upon. I instantly recognized the safe as the one that used to sit in the corner of my father's office, a sight I remembered from my childhood. Embracing it, I was washed over by nostalgia. This safe was a tangible connection to my father, making the inheritance all the more meaningful. Yet, knowing my dad, this discovery felt like just the beginning of his final surprises for me. "There's got to be more," I whispered to myself as I used the second key to unlock the safe. The door creaked open, revealing contents that left me utterly amazed. An unexpected legacy. Realizing the importance of sharing this discovery, I quickly secured the safe and went to inform my mother. Afterward, with my husband's assistance, we transported the safe from my parents' home. It dawned on me that these valuable items, undoubtedly part of my inheritance, might have tax implications. Determined to handle this properly, I decided to seek legal advice. Following the lawyer's suggestion, I contacted a certified public accountant, CPA, recommended by a friend to navigate the potentially complex tax situation. This professional took charge of the intricate details, ensuring everything was in order. A year of navigating these matters had passed. When unexpectedly my sister showed up near my home, her visit was out of the blue, especially considering our recent strained relationship over the inheritance. I was just in the area, she claimed, but her uneasy demeanor and the fact that we lived 30 minutes apart made her visit seem less than casual despite our complicated history. I invited her in after serving coffee. She appeared restless, eventually asking, "Did you win the lottery or something?" Her questions puzzled me. I never played the lottery, and it wasn't the season for my husband's holiday bonus. "What are you getting at?" I finally asked, seeking clarity on her bizarre insinuations. Her mood shifted suddenly to irritation. "Are you making fun of me?" she accused. Her reaction puzzled me even further as her line of questioning seemed completely out of left field. I had no idea what could have prompted such an inquiry, or why she would think I had come into a sudden windfall. Apart from the mysterious contents of the safe that only my family knew about, my sister was practically buzzing with curiosity about the subject of money, insisting that I must have come into a significant sum. She recounted a recent encounter with our aunt in the city who unwittingly sparked her curiosity. Our aunt had mentioned receiving an $11,000 gift card from me as a thank you for visiting our father during his illness. This gesture led my sister to speculate wildly that I had stumbled upon some unexpected fortune. "You've come into some money, haven't you?" "Just admit it," she pressed me for answers. Understanding the root of her inquiry, I let out a sigh, which only seemed to irritate her further. "What's with the attitude? Are you making fun of me?" she demanded. I tried to explain it was simply a gesture of appreciation, which led her to question the source of the funds for such gifts. I reminded her of the inheritance, specifically the dusty shed she had disdainfully mentioned, and revealed the discovery of the safe inside it. A true treasure trove left by our father. The safe contained a collection of valuable watches, a passion of our father's. Though unsure of their exact worth, it was evident they held considerable value, especially given the modest amount of savings left. This revelation led to a discussion about the potential need for paying inheritance tax, a concern my mother had raised upon learning of the safe's contents. "What should I do, Mom?" I asked, seeking her wisdom. My mother advised handling the matter transparently, suggesting that such secrets have a way of coming to light eventually. Following her counsel, I reached out to the lawyer we had previously consulted, who clarified that the value of inherited items determines the applicable inheritance tax. This led me to take the responsible step of accurately declaring the inheritance, ensuring compliance with the legal and financial implications of my newfound wealth. In seeking professional advice, I learned that a certified public accountant, CPA, could efficiently manage the valuation and tax obligations of the inherited watches for me. Entrusting this task to the accountant, we discovered the collection was valued at a staggering $500,000. Given their high value, the implication was clear: inheritance tax was due. The sensible course of action, as advised, was to retain only those pieces that held sentimental value to me and sell the others to someone who could appreciate and afford them. This approach not only made financial sense, but also felt right emotionally. From the proceeds of the sale, I managed to cover the inheritance tax and also extend my gratitude through gift cards to relatives who supported us during my father's illness. This is what had sparked my sister's curiosity. Among the keepsakes, I chose to keep my father's pocket watch, a piece not of great monetary worth, but rich in memories. I shared this story with my sister, showing her the pocket watch, trying to convey its sentimental value. However, her reaction was lukewarm, seemingly more interested in what was sold than what was kept. When she inquired about the remaining watches and the whereabouts of the safe, I informed her it was at our mother's house, explaining the safe's size and its historical significance to our father's business. Her response was contemplative, leaving me feeling uneasy about her intentions. Yet she departed without further questions, to my relief. Though I couldn't shake off an unsettling sense of worry, my fears were somewhat confirmed that very night. A distressing call from my mother urged my husband and me to hurry to her house. As we neared, the scene was alarming. Red lights flashing in the darkness, police cars stationed outside. Making my way through the gathering crowd, I found my mother and learned of the evening's harrowing events. She had been preparing for bed when unusual noises startled her. It sounded like someone was frantically searching through the house. Believing a burglar had broken in, and with no one else home to help, my mother made a quick decision to escape through a window, a move driven by fear and desperation. The situation she described was unnerving, painting a night filled with panic and uncertainty. Under the veil of night, my mother noticed the eerie glow of a flashlight moving inside the house, confirming her fears of a burglary. In a state of panic, she sought help from our neighbor who, upon witnessing the suspicious activity, wasted no time in calling the police, convinced a burglar was at large. Yet the supposed intruder was none other than my sister, Freya, who had decided to search the safe after hearing about my inheritance earlier that day. Without any way to identify her intentions, both my mother and the neighbor were understandably alarmed. The situation escalated when the police arrived. Caught off guard and enveloped in guilt, Freya attempted to flee the scene. Her actions were fueled by a misguided panic. Ironically, her escape efforts led her to collide with the safe, causing the unsteady object to topple over and trap her underneath. This accident led to her being rushed to the hospital with complaints of leg pain, leaving us all in disbelief over her reckless actions. Following this chaos, my mother and I found ourselves apologizing to the responding officers for the misunderstanding. I also felt compelled to inform Freya's husband about the incident, only to discover from him that Freya had been harboring a significant amount of debt due to her extravagant spending on luxury items. Their recent argument had culminated in her storming out, determined to borrow from Mom to settle her financial woes. Unbeknownst to us that she had already depleted her inheritance in an attempt to cover her debt. Freya's husband, already on edge from discovering the extent of her financial mismanagement, declared his intention to divorce her upon learning of her latest escapade. This revelation shed light on Freya's desperate actions that night, which had led to a tumultuous scene at the hospital where her husband broached the subject of divorce. The entire ordeal unfolded into a dramatic clash, underscoring the profound consequences of Freya's actions and the turmoil they had wrought upon our family. Freya was adamant, insisting I'm not getting a divorce. Absolutely not. Yet the reality of her situation became undeniable when her husband presented the divorce papers. Faced with the stark evidence of their fractured relationship, she found herself with no option but to sign them. Now confined to her hospital bed with a mixture of shock and resignation, she's turning the pages of a part-time job magazine, evidently scheming on ways to tackle her debt through newfound employment. This turn of events, while unfortunate, offered a glimmer of hope that she might finally take responsibility for her actions. In the wake of these tumultuous events, I made a significant decision myself, to return to my childhood home. The chaos had certainly stirred a deep concern for my mother's well-being in me, but another, happier reason spurred my decision. I discovered what I was expecting. After much discussion, my husband and I agreed that moving back would be best, allowing us to lean on my mother's support with our growing family. Though I regret that my father couldn't be part of this joyous news, I find comfort in believing he would have shared in our happiness. As I navigate this new chapter, the anticipation of welcoming a healthy child fills me with a sense of peace and forward-looking optimism despite the recent family strife. Hello, my name is Karen, and I'm a 58-year-old woman. My husband passed away about 7 years ago, but I still work. I have 3 children. 3 live in different states across the country, each with their own families. I'm very lucky to have such a big family. One of my children, Zachary, still lives in our hometown. He met his wife, Sarah, at the local community college. I liked her, and though I didn't think my opinion was very important, I was happy if Zachary was happy. They got married quickly and continued their education in their chosen fields. After getting good jobs and saving some money, they decided to have a child. I was thrilled to have another grandchild to spoil, but Sarah was particular about when I could visit and for how long. This was understandable in William's first year, but it seemed strange even when he was 6. However, I accepted it because every family is different. Before I knew it, 14 years had passed, and because I wasn't allowed much time with William, we didn't form a strong bond. We both loved books, so I always brought him some when I visited. One day, while I was at work, William called me, which was unusual since we rarely talked outside of family gatherings. I tried to connect with him as I had with my other grandchildren, but he always seemed distant. "Grandma, are you free to talk?" "Yes, honey, any time for you." "Is everything okay?" "No." "Why are you crying? Did you get hurt? Is there anyone at home who can help you?" "Mom and Dad are here." "But do you need me to call them for you?" "No, I called you because I need your help." "What can I help you with, dear?" "I need you to save me, Grandma." "William, what do you mean?" "Don't laugh." "I'm sorry, Grandma, that wasn't what I was expecting to say. I'm not joking. If you can't help me, I'll find another way." "No, wait. I'm sorry for laughing. Now can you explain what you mean by save me?" "I need you to save me from my devil mother." "Devil mother? What do you mean?" She's not as sweet and nice as she seems. She is really mean to me when no one's around. Oh no, I hear someone coming. I have to go. Please don't tell them I called. Bye. I was confused and worried. As far as I knew, Sarah was very kind. How could William say she was a devil? I didn't believe him at first because it seemed like he might be upset with Sarah for possibly punishing him. Both Sarah and Zachary had told me William was quite a tricky child, but something inside me felt that William was serious. When I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about the call. It was strange for William to do that. I thought about it for a few days, but still felt uneasy, so I decided to buy a hidden camera. I felt bad for spying on my son's family, but I told myself I was doing it because William asked for help. If nothing was wrong, I could just take the camera back, but if something was wrong, I'd need to act. I hoped a serious talk would fix any issues. The camera arrived in a few days. Once I set it up, I could watch live and recorded footage on my phone, which was very handy. After getting everything ready and learning how to use the camera, I decided to call my son and ask if I could visit. Hello, Zach. How's everything? Everything's great, Mom. What about you? It's the usual, but I was wondering if I could come over sometime. Of course, Mom. Is everything okay? Yes, I was just thinking we haven't seen each other in a while. Maybe I could visit your place one day. Sure, Mom. How about this Sunday? That works, but should I check with Sarah first? I remember not liking it when your dad made plans without asking me. I know Sarah would be happy to have you over. Don't worry, Mom. All right then, I'll be there around 7 o'clock. That works. See you soon. Take care. Even though I had another reason for visiting, I was still excited to spend time with my son. I rarely saw my other children except during the holidays, so it was nice having one living in the same town. The weekend came quickly. I got ready early, went to the grocery store, and picked up a nice bottle of wine and some books for William since he loved reading. When I arrived, they all welcomed me warmly. William looked so relieved to see me it made me worry again. He hadn't tried to contact me since our first phone call, so I didn't know what was on his mind. I spent the next few hours chatting with Zachary and Sarah. We had dinner and drank wine. Eventually, William went to his room since we were talking about things that probably didn't interest him. I excused myself to go talk to him. Sarah seemed a bit hesitant, but I insisted since it had been a while since I visited, and I wanted to spend time with my grandson. Zachary told Sarah to let me go and talk to William. When I entered his room, I closed the door behind me and handed him the books I had bought. We talked about the books for a while because he seemed really excited. I didn't bring up what he had mentioned earlier because I wanted him to start that conversation. Later, we talked about other things like what was happening in our lives. At one point, while he was telling me about his school, he wrote something in his notebook and showed it to me. It said, "Mom's listening. Can't talk about anything." I wasn't sure if he was serious or just worried, but I went along with it. We kept talking, and I wrote in the notebook that I had brought a hidden camera with me and asked if I could put it in his room. He looked worried but agreed quickly. I found a good spot in the room to place the camera where it could see well. I set it up, started recording, and checked my phone to make sure it was working. I stayed with William a bit longer until I told him it was getting late and I needed to go. I left my scarf behind on purpose so I would have a reason to return. After I said that, I heard quick footsteps moving away from the door, which made me wonder if William was really in trouble. I didn't think much about it at that moment and hugged William goodbye. I went downstairs, said goodbye to Zachary and Sarah, and left. Back home, I was tired that night, but checked the camera when I got home. I stayed up for an hour to read and kept an eye on the footage. The only thing that happened was my son walking into William's room and asking what we had talked about. William told him. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next morning, I was in a hurry and didn't check the cameras. I only looked at the footage after I knew William would be back from school. Again, not much happened, and I started to wonder if William might have been making it up. I decided to wait one more day, and if I didn't see anything suspicious, I planned to visit when Zachary and Sarah weren't home and ask William to return the camera. However, that night, as I watched the footage while reading, I discovered what William had been trying to tell me. I saw Sarah enter his room with a stick, followed by Zachary. I quickly unmuted the video. I listened as Sarah asked William to recount his entire day in great detail. Every time he hesitated or stuttered, she would sharply question if he was lying. If she thought he was lying, she would make him hold out his hands and hit his knuckles 2 or 4 times. I watched in horror as she hit him more and more often. William was crying, and Zachary just stood there watching. I was shocked and upset by what I saw. I had always raised my kids gently. I believe that children are smarter than we think, and they understand when things are explained to them. I couldn't understand why Zachary was just watching and letting his son be hurt over something so trivial. I wanted to rush over there and stop them, but what could I say? They would find it strange that I returned just a day after my last visit. I remembered leaving my scarf there, which I could have used as an excuse to see William again, so I picked up my phone and called Zachary. "Hey, Mom, is everything okay?" "Yes, no worries. I hope I'm not bothering you." "No, Sarah and I were just putting William to bed." "Oh, okay. I just wanted to say I think I left my scarf in William's room last night. I set it down and then forgot it. Do you think I could come by tomorrow to pick it up? Why don't I bring it over to you right now?" "No, I'm too tired and I'll probably fall asleep before you get here. I had a long day at work and can barely hold up the phone." "All right then, why don't you come by in the evening?" "I can't come then. I'm meeting some friends for game night tomorrow." "Well, Sarah and I won't be back until the evening. Why don't you come the day after? I need the scarf for tomorrow. We're having a get-together. You could come in the afternoon. William will be home." "Oh, lovely. I'll be there around 4. Good night." My heart raced as I made up excuses on the spot. At least my call had distracted Zachary and Sarah enough for them to stop focusing on William. But before they left William's room, Sarah said that William wouldn't get any dinner or any other meals until dinner. The next day, I was shocked. The next day, I took off from work and prepared myself to talk to William. I was sure he wouldn't want to continue living there, but I needed to hear it from him. Before going to Zach's house, I picked up some food for both of us. When I got there, William looked like he was about to faint. He seemed weak and hungry. Sarah really had not let him eat. I quickly gave him the food, and he ate it hungrily. I felt very sorry for him and wanted to help him. After he finished eating, I spoke to him. "Did you see everything that happened?" "Yes, darling, and I'm so sorry for laughing at you before. I had no idea." "It's okay. Mom seems so nice." "But has she always been like this?" "The beating only started recently, but she's been starving me for a while." "Why isn't Zachary doing anything?" "He's too scared of Mom. He just follows her and does whatever she says. She always gets her way." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry you've been going through this. But why didn't you eat at school?" "Mom doesn't send me to school on the days she doesn't let me eat. I stay home. She checks how much food we have in the house. If even 1 gram of food is missing when she gets back, I get punished more. So she's starving you and messing up your schooling. I'm going to do my best to help you. Okay. I need you to tell me right now if you want to come live with me. I'll take care of everything you need and keep you away from Mom and Dad. Of course, Grandma. Anywhere away from here will be great. I promise to be good. Just please take me away from here. I promise I will, darling, but it will take some time. Do you think you can handle staying here a little while longer? Yeah, I can. I've been living here for 14 years, so I can wait a bit more. I carefully removed all the wrappers and made sure there was no trace of food. I didn't want Sarah to make things worse for William. I helped William clean up any crumbs and double-checked to make sure we left the place just as it had been. I went back home and called Zachary to let him know I had gotten my scarf back and thanked him for being cooperative. Next, I contacted a friend who works in family law. I explained my situation, and he said that fighting for custody of William would be hard and long. He also told me that even if I got custody, it might be temporary, and Sarah could change her behavior and regain custody. I knew going to court might not work in my favor with the little evidence I had, but I did have one plan. I could use the evidence to get her to make me William's legal guardian. Sarah works as a counselor at a middle school, and I was sure she wouldn't want her abusing her child to become known and risk her job and future opportunities. I kept a close watch on the footage over the next few days as I gathered all my evidence and prepared the paperwork for a transfer of guardianship. I waited until the weekend to visit Zach unannounced. When Zachary opened the door, he looked surprised. Mom, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you and Sarah. I don't think now's a good time. Why? What's going on? Just family stuff. Hold on. How come you're over so frequently, Zachary? Is it my son? I didn't think I needed special permission to do that. I didn't mean it like that, but it's just unusual. You don't usually come by so often, and this week it's been frequent, which is strange since you rarely ever drop by before. It's not really strange. I only came over today because I have something seriously important that I need to discuss with both of you. What's that sound? I had my suspicions about Sarah's behavior towards William because of how evasive Zachary had been acting. But when I suddenly heard what sounded like loud crying coming from William's room, I knew I had to act. There was no way I could just stand by when I was right there and could do something. I quickly moved past Zachary with more of a speed walk than a run due to my age and burst into William's room. There I saw William sobbing, clutching his face while Sarah stood over him, breathing heavily, her face twisted with malice. The sight made me shiver. I rushed to William's side and asked him if he was all right. He just hugged me tightly, crying into my shoulder while Sarah huffed and stormed out of the room. Once William calmed down a little, I took a good look at him. His cheek was red and swelling, his knuckles were bleeding, and there were welts on his arms, all evidence of being hit with a stick. I felt a rage like never before. What kind of monster would need to hit a child so hard? No matter what he did, nothing justified that level of harshness. I went downstairs to the kitchen, grabbed a bag of frozen vegetables, and went back up to William so he could use it to help reduce the swelling on his cheeks. Once I made sure he was somewhat okay, I told him that we would be leaving for my place immediately and asked him to pack as many of his belongings as he could. Then I walked back down to confront both Sarah and Zachary. Sarah looked furious, and Zachary seemed like he wanted to be anywhere but there. How dare you just barge into our home like that? Sarah challenged. Isn't it a good thing that I did? You were hitting your child, for crying out loud. I countered, my voice firm. What I do in my family is none of your business, she snapped back. Your child is my grandson, and he is a part of my family too. You're hurting him, and I can't let that go on. I asserted, standing my ground. He may be your grandson, but you don't live with him. You don't know how he behaves. I'm just disciplining him. Sarah defended her actions, but her justification fell flat. It doesn't matter if he's being difficult. He's a child, and there are so many other ways to handle discipline other than hitting. You, of all people, should understand. I insisted, my voice laced with both anger and disappointment. I don't believe in any of that gentle parenting stuff. Leave me and my family alone, got it? I'm afraid I can't do that. What do you mean? I handed Sarah the papers she needed to sign to transfer guardianship rights to me. Both she and Zachary stared at the paper for a long time before looking up at me, confused. I explained that they both needed to sign the papers, or I would show the proof I had of them hitting William. What do you mean by proof? I set up a hidden camera in William's room last week. I have all the proof I need. Neither of your jobs would be okay with what you've been doing, especially yours, Sarah. If you want to keep earning money, I suggest you sign the papers. You were spying on us? That's a huge invasion of our privacy. Don't get me wrong, but I was only acting based on what I knew. I needed to make sure William was okay. Mom, don't do this to us. Give us another chance. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't want to hear it. I'm very disappointed in you, Zachary. I raised you to be better than this. You're just as bad as Sarah, if not worse. I'm taking William with me, and I expect the papers to be signed. If you don't, you know what will happen. I knew they didn't want to risk their jobs, so they didn't fight back when William and I left. I took William out for dinner and ice cream and did my best to comfort him. I provided him with a safe place to express his feelings and just be himself without fear. In the weeks that followed, I was granted legal guardianship of William. Sarah and Zachary said they planned to move to a different state and didn't want to disrupt William's schooling as a reason for the guardianship transfer. They did end up moving, which was a big relief for me. William is doing much better now and seems a lot happier. Knowing he won't see his parents for a long time has helped him feel safer. He's one of the kindest and sweetest kids I know. He thanks me every day for what I did for him, and I intend to keep my promise to always protect him for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening. I am craving a vacay with my friends, and I intend to charge it all with your credit card. I hadn't heard from Gary in a while when all of this hit the fan. I knew he had been coming home late for a while. It was nothing. WebServlet gets server name in braces. Secretly talking to Deborah on the phone, he was also jumpy at home. I wondered if he had been preparing for this all along. I wonder if Gary and Deborah might have a hand in this. The good news is I was prepared for anything. I might pretend to be shocked when he brings it up. What do you mean? I asked for clarification. I already knew Gary was planning to leave for a trip today. Honestly, it's hard to believe if he thinks he can deceive me. I wish he had made a better plan. I had been patient up until today, but now I felt a strong desire to retaliate. There's no way I didn't have a plan for revenge. It's time to stand up to those annoying siblings. After being patient for so long, I'm sure everything will become clear after today. I hope they enjoy their trip, not knowing that one of their travel companions is working with me. My name is Elizabeth Fleo, and I'm 31 years old. I live in a house with my husband, Gary. Right after finishing high school, I started working at the company I'm still with today. After gaining some experience and being recommended by my boss, I earned several certifications in this company. Certifications and a solid track record mean you're valued highly. I got a leadership position at the age of 19, which was quite young for such a role. Even though it was just a lead position, I secretly hoped to become at least a department head one day. After a while, a few new employees joined the company, including Gary. Even though I'm younger than him, I hold a higher position at work. "Elizabeth, you're about the same age as us, aren't you?" he asked. "And you're already a supervisor. That's impressive." "Yes, I'm probably a year younger or so," I replied. "I've been working here since I left high school, so I've gathered quite a bit of experience." Gary often praised my early career planning, which was flattering. Eventually, he began showing interest in me, and although I was hesitant at first, I found myself falling for him. Our relationship developed in a typical fashion, enjoying dinners out and drives until we decided to move in together. Living with Gary, I noticed his untidy habits, but thought it was his way of being comfortable around me, so I didn't fuss over it. After some time, Gary proposed and I accepted. We then started to plan our future together. Gary suggested, "I'd like you to quit your job and stay at home. I'll work, and you can take care of the house. We should also start thinking about having kids soon, and I'm eager to buy a house and plan our wedding. How about we go to a wedding, a house, then kid? What do you think?" "Gary, your plan sounds nice, and I'm not too concerned about the order, but we need to think about our finances," I responded. "I don't intend to leave my job, even with kids in the picture. We should be flexible. Buying a house might put a strain on our budget." "I understand," he said, "but it bothers me that you earn more. I was hoping we could get a house right after the wedding. That might be difficult given our financial situation. Let's focus on managing the wedding and house for now and consider children later. We'll decide on my job then, all right." "Let's do that," Gary agreed. Inwardly, I didn't want to quit my job, but I felt I had to propose this compromise to keep the peace. At our engagement party, I met Gary's family, but his sister Deborah was away and only attended the wedding. She barged into the bride and groom's room, looked me over, smirked, and remarked, "So, Gary chose you. A bit plain compared to his exes, huh? I'm Deborah, your sister-in-law. I'm someone who's straightforward with family, so just a heads up. I'm Elizabeth, nice to meet you," I said, introducing myself. Deborah gave a casual wave and exited the room, leaving me quite surprised by her blunt demeanor. It was clear from the start that my sister-in-law was a character all her own. Later, I met Deborah's husband, who seemed like a genuinely nice person. The wedding ceremony went smoothly, and Gary and I eventually purchased a house we both loved. With life getting busier, I dedicated more effort to my job. One day, when I was busy, the doorbell rang. Gary went to answer it and returned, laughing and chatting with Deborah, who had decided to visit unexpectedly. "Hey there, Elizabeth. Gary's doing pretty well, huh? Owning such a big house, that's good for him, being my little brother and all," Deborah remarked, making herself comfortable. "Elizabeth, do we have any snacks or something?" "My sister's here, so let's be quick," Gary urged, his tone off-putting. I sensed a change in Gary's attitude. He seemed to puff himself up in front of his sister, likely implying he was solely responsible for buying our house. Although I contributed to the down payment and mortgage, Gary insisted on having the house titled in his name. At the time, it seemed inconsequential whose name was on the deed, but his portrayal of the situation to Deborah bothered me. Nevertheless, I chose to keep the peace and not stir up trouble. "Here are some snacks. Gary really puts in a lot of effort, you know," I mentioned. "Why does Elizabeth sound so authoritative? She's not the boss or anything," Deborah commented. "Well, actually, I am Gary's supervisor at work," I corrected her. "Oh, is that so?" I might not have mentioned that Elizabeth was already a manager when I started. She's been working since she dropped out of high school, so it makes sense. Gary chimed in, somewhat dismissively. Wait, you dropped out of high school? You seem so dedicated, yet you're less accomplished than me. Deborah provocatively said. Is there an issue with me dropping out of high school? I asked. Not really, but Elizabeth, since you didn't graduate from high school, and I'm your sister-in-law, I guess I can ask you for anything, right? Deborah suggested, misinterpreting the dynamics. That's true, Gary agreed, emboldening Deborah's stance. Elizabeth, whatever my sister says goes. If you don't agree, I'll have to ask you to leave the house, Gary threatened, escalating the situation unnecessarily. The conversation with my sister-in-law and her brother left me baffled. Why would Deborah think she could demand anything from me just because I didn't finish high school and she's related by marriage? And the threat of being kicked out over it sounded absurd. Was this some kind of joke? I managed a polite smile and made my escape to the kitchen, but I could still catch Gary's voice indicating they were serious about their strange assertion. Soon after, Deborah followed me into the kitchen with a request. Hey Elizabeth, I need a favor. Can I borrow about $5,000? That's quite a bit of money. What do you need it for? I asked, surprised by the boldness of her request. It's just $5,000. You have a good job, right? I needed to finish paying off some renovation costs, she replied, as if it wasn't a significant amount. But didn't you just show off your new condo? I questioned. Deborah brushed off my query and insisted, saying Gary had agreed to lend her the money and directed her to me. Why would Gary promise something like that without discussing it with me first? I wondered aloud. Deborah then threatened to mess with my job unless I complied. Fine, I'll lend you the money, but we're making a promissory note for it and bring an ID with a photo when you come to get the cash, I stipulated, wanting to ensure I had a written agreement. Deborah begrudgingly agreed, showing up the next day with the required identification. Despite her complaints, I knew having a promissory note was crucial. This whole ordeal was eye-opening regarding how much Gary was influenced by Deborah. It seemed like standing up to her wouldn't have made any difference. Later, I discovered Deborah spent the borrowed money on luxury items. After the initial loan, she became more brazen, borrowing up to $112,000 in total. Each time, I insisted on a promissory note. Just when the situation seemed to spiral, I was called into the boss's office. Not for a reprimand, but for a surprise promotion from supervisor to manager. I was absolutely thrilled, rushing home to share my big news with Gary, who had taken the day off. I burst through the door. I'm home, G. Guess what? Welcome back, Elizabeth. You look really happy. What's up? He greeted me. I just had a meeting with my boss, and you won't believe it. He offered me the position of department manager. I've always dreamed of climbing up to head manager, so this step is huge for me. Wait, what? You're getting promoted? Gary's confusion was palpable. Did you accept? Of course I did. Haven't I mentioned my ambitions to you before? His reaction took me by surprise. You think I should have asked for your permission. But you know I've always wanted to keep my career. And as for not being promoted yourself, that's something for you to address. Shortly after, Gary made a call, presumably to his sister, because she showed up not long after. So you think you can just snatch Gary's chance at a promotion? She accused. I haven't snatched anything. Promotions at our workplace are merit-based, I explained. But she retorted, suggesting I was belittling Gary. Before I knew it, they had taken my bank card from my purse. Despite my attempts to stop them, I was outnumbered and could only watch as they left, laughing. Left alone, tears started to form. Regret filled me. I should have seen the warning signs. It was clear what I needed to do next: find a reputable divorce attorney. Gary didn't come home that night. At work the next day, he approached. I sought legal advice over the weekend and in the weeks that followed. I started the divorce proceedings. Gary's behavior didn't change. He kept coming home late and rushed out whenever he had a day off. Just as I considered hiring a detective, I received a call from Scott, Deborah's husband. "Hi, is this Elizabeth?" he asked. "Yes, this is her. It's unusual to hear from you, Scott." I was wondering, is Deborah there? "No, she's not." "Why do you ask?" "She's been returning late and leaving early on weekends, claiming she's at Gary's." I was just checking. "That's odd. Gary's been acting similarly. Honestly, I stopped caring about what they do." I confessed, feeling detached from the situation. Scott seemed concerned. "I've had enough too. I've thought about divorce but haven't been able to go through with it." I shared my story with Scott about the money I lent Deborah and everything else. He expressed sympathy and mentioned he was close to his breaking point with Deborah. "Scott, maybe we should use what's happened as evidence. It sounds like we're both in unfair situations. Let's take a stand against their selfish behavior," I suggested, hoping to empower both of us to act. Scott agreed, and we discussed collaborating on our respective divorces. He then mentioned something odd about Deborah, urging him to take a long vacation, and I recalled seeing travel brochures and club cards in a shelf Gary was secretive about. After finding these items, it dawned on me they were likely planning a trip together. "Scott, it looks like they might be planning a getaway. I just found travel brochures and some club cards in a place Gary told me never to look." I informed him, piecing together their probable plans. Discovering some travel brochures sparked an idea in me. I shared my plan with Scott over the phone, and he laughed, agreeing to join in. We decided to coordinate our actions via text messages and concluded our conversation. I also sent him some potential evidence that might help with his divorce, and we carefully planned our next moves. 2 weeks later, on a day pre-informed by Scott, Gary left the house early in the morning. A few hours after his departure, he called me, boasting about having a blast with his sister and friends on my account. His recent pattern of late returns and secretive phone calls with Deborah had already raised my suspicions. I decided to feign ignorance to see how far he would go. "Your card. What are you talking about?" I played along, confused. "You seriously didn't notice? We've been planning this trip for a while. Scott was our backup. You've become too proud, and we thought it's time to teach you a lesson," Gary retorted, confident in his scheme. His words left me emotionless, my patience replaced by a resolve for retribution. "What was that about my debit card earlier?" I inquired. "I have my card here," I stated, pretending to be confused. "That's impossible." "Here's the card." "Wait, what?" Gary stammered, realizing something was wrong. "That's a fitness club membership card, Gary. Did you mix them up?" I couldn't help but reveal the trick. Scott, listening in on speakerphone, chimed in. "So it was a plan concocted by Deborah and you. I'm utterly disappointed." "Actually, I switched the card last night," I confessed. "Looks like you didn't double-check this morning and just assumed." Gary, caught in his own trap, sputtered in disbelief. "What are you playing at?" "I should be asking you that," I shot back. "Don't get too smug just because you think you can outsmart us." Gary's failed attempt at using my supposed debit card, only to find out it was a fitness club card, marked a turning point. His plan, fueled by arrogance and the belief in an easy victory over me, crumbled. This incident, a minor victory in the grand scheme of things, was a reminder of the importance of staying vigilant and prepared, especially against those who underestimate your resolve. I had a little surprise in store for Gary and Deborah upon their return. "I've got gifts waiting for both of you when you get back," I teased, knowing full well the twist I had planned. "You think gifts will make up for this?" "I only want cash," Gary retorted, thinking he could sway me with demands. "We'll see," I said, adding a touch of mystery to my voice. "Look forward to it." Ignoring their subsequent request for money, I ended the call and went to sleep, brushing off Gary's threatening message with a simple, "Is that so?" The next afternoon, my phone was bombarded with missed calls and messages. I first reassured Scott, then tackled Gary's relentless pleas for money. "It's freezing here. We're in Ketchikan of all places in March. Help." Their discomfort was a clear sign my plan had succeeded. "You were counting on Scott, weren't you?" "Too bad he's on his way back here, not stuck in Ketchikan with you," I replied. Confusion and desperation seeped through Gary's response. "What do you mean Scott's not here?" "Exactly," I confirmed. "While you were busy plotting with Deborah, Scott and I joined forces. He's already boarded a plane back." The revelation left them stunned. I ended the call with a clear message. "Now find your own way back. See you." I then prepared for the inevitable confrontation upon their return, organizing a final meeting with my lawyer to discuss the divorce. I anticipated Gary and his group's outrage, ready to face them with calm determination. As expected, upon their return, Gary and his friends stormed in, demanding explanations and threatening me with eviction. But when Scott, usually the peacemaker, raised his voice, commanding them to sit down, they were taken aback. This unexpected assertiveness from Scott marked a turning point, establishing a new dynamic that would shape our next steps. The lawyer wasted no time in distributing his business cards to Gary and Deborah, who appeared utterly bewildered by the gesture. "Well, here's a special gift from us," Scott and I announced, presenting them with a stack of documents. Their confusion turned to shock as they skimmed the papers. "Wait, this is about dividing property. You're not suggesting divorce, are you?" Gary stammered, disbelief written all over his face. "It's exactly that, a divorce," I clarified as their faces drained of color. "This has to be a joke, right?" Deborah attempted a laugh, looking for support from Scott, who was already heading towards the door. "I've documented everything, including the call Gary made from their so-called vacation," Scott revealed, his tone serious. "It's beyond clear what you've done, and I cannot go on like this." Both Gary and Deborah tried to protest, but their attempts were feeble and unconvincing. "I'm entitled to half of the down payment. We made the remainder of the mortgage and the reimbursement of the savings you squandered from my single days," I stated firmly. Deborah tried to deny borrowing money or accessing my savings, but her denial crumbled when I mentioned the promissory note. Their desperate attempt to destroy evidence by crushing the recorder and Deborah ripping up the document was met with calm responses from Scott and me, explaining the futility of their actions. "Even if you destroy that recorder, the data is still safe on my computer. And Deborah, that wasn't the original document you tore up," I said, revealing their short-sightedness. The claims we laid out were substantial. Gary was billed for $125,000, covering emotional damages, the down payment on the house, and miscellaneous expenses, with an additional loan repayment due. Deborah faced a bill of $26,000, including the loan she acknowledged with a promissory note and miscellaneous expenses. Scott's claim against Deborah was even more significant, amounting to $110,000 for the distress she caused him and her reckless spending, all without touching assets like condos. As reality sank in, Gary and Deborah could do nothing but cry, realizing the gravity of their situation and the consequences of their actions. This wasn't just a threat. It was a firm stance against their irresponsible and selfish behavior, marking a turning point for all of us. I suspected that Gary and Deborah might consider suing, given their history of rash decisions, but our sharp attorney had cleverly included a clause in the settlement documents essentially saying, "If you try to sue, you'll definitely lose. No lawyer will take your case, and you'll only end up spending more money. Focus on repaying your debts instead." This tactic ensured we could resolve everything without stepping into a courtroom. After settling the matter, I collected my things and left our shared home behind. Surprisingly, news of the ordeal spread through my workplace, leading to Gary being transferred to a different branch, a move that likely saved both of us from further awkward encounters. Not long after, Gary reached out with a message that was both desperate and hopeful, suggesting we try to mend our relationship and insisting he had changed. Similarly, Deborah tried to persuade me to reconsider, hinting at the possibility of living together, as if that could magically resolve the deep-seated issues between us. Their pleas fell on deaf ears. I had made up my mind, firm in my decision. I blocked them, cutting off any chance for them to sway me. Scott, who'd become a friend and confidant through this ordeal, shared that he too had received and ignored similar pleas from Deborah. One day, a drive past my old house revealed it was on the market, a clear sign that Gary and Deborah had managed to make the repayment. Since I had blocked all communication with them, their current situation remained a mystery to me. In the meantime, I moved on with my life, purchasing a condo and diving into my work, which soon paid off with a promotion to regional director, a goal I had long aspired to achieve. Scott and I began to spend more time together, discovering a surprising ease and compatibility in our interactions. Something about our dynamic just felt right, hinting at a budding relationship that was different from anything I had experienced before. Life after the divorce unfolded beautifully, affirming my decision to leave a toxic situation behind. As for what developed between Scott and me, that's a story for another chapter, one filled with promise and new beginnings. My name is Ava, and I am a 50-year-old who works part-time. My husband and I are parents to 3 teenage boys. One a senior and the other a sophomore in high school. Our elder son is currently preparing for his college entrance exams with a dream of becoming a lawyer, a passion he's nurtured since he was very young. This aspiration likely comes from admiring my brother Timothy, a successful lawyer who established his own law firm a few years back. Timothy's dedication to his profession and his ability to inspire others, especially my son, has been a guiding light in our family. Despite being excellent in his studies from a young age, my son's ambition to pursue law intensified because of the encouragement and example set by Timothy. Whenever they meet, my son expresses his determination to become a lawyer, much to Timothy's delight and supportive chuckles. Timothy, who is childless and married to a woman 8 years his junior, enjoys spoiling my sons whenever he visits, creating a warm and encouraging environment for them to grow up in. Despite Timothy's wife being somewhat of an enigma to us, she's known for her eccentric personality and rarely visits our home. We've had minimal interaction with her. Timothy and I, having lost our parents early in life, have always had a close bond. He played a parental role in my life, especially during significant events like my wedding. My husband and I were initially relieved to hear of Timothy's engagement, hoping it would bring him happiness. However, our first meeting with his fiancée left us puzzled due to her seemingly unhappy demeanor, contrary to our expectations of seeing a joyous bride-to-be. On another note, my husband possesses a substantial fortune estimated at $50 million, including our home, which will be inherited by me in the absence of any children from our marriage. This fact seems to have caused some tension, or at least a noticeable change in how my sister-in-law interacts with us. Although she has always been somewhat distant and difficult to communicate with, this complex web of family relationships, aspirations, and the dynamics of inheritance paints a picture of our lives filled with both ambition and the peculiar challenges that come with interpersonal relationships within a family. In the presence of my brother and his fiancée, I commented on how wonderful they seemed together, a gesture of goodwill and support on what was a significant moment for them. However, once back in the privacy of my home with my husband, I felt free to express the doubts that lingered in my mind. I couldn't help but wonder why my brother's fiancée appeared so markedly unhappy, especially now that their marriage was official. My husband shared my concerns, echoing my sentiments with a note of worry. He remarked on her lack of joyfulness, a quality one might expect in someone just married. My brother, a successful lawyer with his own firm, had recently purchased a house, prompting a visit from our family to celebrate the new milestone. The house was as impressive as I had anticipated, a testament to my brother's achievement. Yet during our visit, the absence of my sister-in-law was palpable. My husband, ever the joker, teased my brother about his wife's absence, asking if she had left him already. The joke, intended to be lighthearted, fell flat as we observed my brother's somber reaction. He explained that his wife often returned to her parents' home for various reasons, and on this occasion, it was to celebrate her mother's birthday. The mood shifted unexpectedly when my brother, with a seriousness that was uncharacteristic, inquired if we would consider allowing him to adopt one of our children should he and his wife be unable to have their own. The question was so sudden and so grave that I found myself speechless, unable to process the request. My husband, perhaps in an attempt to diffuse the tension, responded with laughter, suggesting that such decisions could be discussed in the future. His casual dismissal did not ease my concerns. Instead, I found myself preoccupied with thoughts of what this meant for my brother's marriage and the well-being of his relationship with his wife. Over the years, the absence of my sister-in-law from family gatherings became a norm to the extent that her existence seemed almost an afterthought. Conversations about her or inquiries into her well-being were carefully avoided, creating an unspoken agreement not to broach what was clearly a sensitive subject. This delicate balance was maintained until a recent celebration in honor of my eldest son's acceptance into his dream law school, during which my brother revisited the subject of adoption. This reiteration brought back all the complexities and unspoken worries that had been simmering beneath the surface of our family's interactions. The juxtaposition of my family's life, marked by milestones and celebrations, against the backdrop of my brother's unspoken struggles, painted a complex picture of familial bonds and the silent worries that often go unaddressed. Despite the joy of my son's achievement, my brother's situation reminded me of the nuanced and sometimes hidden challenges that family members face, leaving me to ponder the best way to support those we love while respecting the boundaries they set. My brother revisited a significant request with us, inquiring if we would consider allowing him to adopt one of our children. This conversation emerged from a place of need and hope, as he and his wife were unable to conceive. The question wasn't new to us. He had broached the subject previously shortly after his marriage. But the context had changed, and the urgency in his tone was palpable this time. Despite the gravity of the situation, my husband responded with a light-hearted suggestion, proposing our eldest son, who shared my brother's ambition in law, as a potential candidate. His casual demeanor belied the complexity and the enormity of the decision at hand, a decision that would undeniably alter the course of our sons' lives. Given that the prospective adoptive parent would be their uncle, the familial bond reassured me somewhat about their emotional well-being. However, my apprehensions concerning my sister-in-law's treatment towards my children, who would not be her biological offspring, lingered. Seeking clarity and assurance, I questioned my brother about his wife's stance on the adoption. His response, accompanied by a strained smile, was meant to allay my fears. He confirmed that the matter had been discussed and agreed upon between them, offering a semblance of relief. Yet the decision was too significant to be made hastily. I resolved to engage my sons in this conversation, considering they were of high school age and capable of understanding the implications of such a life-altering choice. The matter was left to be deliberated further with no immediate conclusions drawn. However, the situation took an unexpected turn a few days later when I received a distressing call from my brother's law firm informing me of his sudden collapse due to a stroke. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was greeted by his colleagues, whose faces were etched with concern. They informed me that they had been unable to contact my sister-in-law. Attempts to reach her through the landline were futile, and without her mobile number, I felt at a loss. It wasn't until my husband and younger son joined me that we discovered a smartphone among my brother's personal effects, which provided us with the means to contact her. The call was initially met with hostility, as she mistook me for someone else and threatened legal action. It was only when I identified myself and explained the circumstances of my brother's hospitalization that her demeanor shifted from aggressive to apologetic. Yet her reaction to the news of my brother's condition struck me as peculiarly upbeat, a reaction that seemed incongruous with the gravity of the situation. This interaction added another layer of complexity to my already conflicted feelings about the proposed adoption and the dynamics within my brother's family. The incident underscored the delicate nature of family relationships and the unforeseen challenges that often accompany them, leaving me to navigate these turbulent waters with great care and consideration for all involved. When I reached out to my sister-in-law to inform her about my brother's hospitalization, her response was chillingly indifferent. She claimed she was too busy to visit the hospital and requested to be updated on any developments, abruptly ending the call. This reaction left me perplexed and slightly dismayed, questioning what could possibly be more pressing than her husband's critical health situation. It became evident that we couldn't count on her support, compelling us to take matters into our own hands regarding my brother's care. In the days following, my family and I rallied to provide the support my brother needed. My eldest son, having recently completed his university entrance exams and enjoying a period of relaxation, took it upon himself to visit my brother daily, acting as our family's representative. Despite our hopes and prayers, my brother remained in a critical, unconscious state with no signs of improvement. Throughout this entire ordeal, my sister-in-law remained conspicuously absent. She neither visited nor inquired about his condition. Approximately a week after my brother was admitted to the hospital, I initiated another call to my sister-in-law, hoping for a change in her attitude. However, her response was as shocking as it was heartless. She answered the phone with a tone of gleeful anticipation, asking, "What's the matter? Did he die?" Her blatant insensitivity and lack of empathy were staggering. When I questioned her absence at the hospital, she retorted dismissively, claiming her presence would make no difference to my brother's condition. Her indifference infuriated me to such an extent that I ended the call, feeling both enraged and helpless. This series of interactions led me to reflect on my brother's earlier proposal to adopt one of my sons. It dawned on me that perhaps his suggestion was rooted in a deep-seated concern for his legacy and a recognition of the strained dynamics within his own marriage. Their union, brokered by a marriage counseling agency, now appeared to me in a different light. I speculated whether my sister-in-law's motivations for marrying my brother were influenced more by his profession and financial stability than by love or companionship. This realization only added to my growing resentment towards her. Discussing these developments with my husband, he presented a bleak but realistic perspective. Should anything happen to my brother, his wife would stand to inherit everything, given the absence of any children. This stark reality brought new weight to my brother's interest in adoption, suggesting it might have been a contemplative step towards securing his legacy and ensuring his assets remained within the family. When I broached the subject of adoption with my sons, their reactions were unexpectedly varied. My younger son, devoid of any immediate aspirations or goals, surprisingly expressed willingness to be adopted, perceiving it as an opportunity for an easier life under the care of my brother. This stood in stark contrast to my older son, whom I had assumed would be more inclined towards the idea, especially considering his admiration for my brother. This divergence in their responses left me contemplating the complexities of family dynamics, the impact of legacy, and the unforeseen consequences of our choices on the bonds that hold us together. My oldest son didn't want to be adopted because he felt it was his duty to take care of us, his parents. I was happy to hear this, but also felt that he would have been the perfect choice for adoption by my brother, who was a lawyer and needed someone to continue his legacy. Unfortunately, I couldn't go through with the adoption since my brother was unconscious, and I didn't want his wealth. I definitely didn't want his property going to my sister-in-law, who seemed to be waiting for him to pass away. Sadly, my brother never got better and passed away a few days later. I had to call my sister-in-law to discuss the funeral arrangements. Her response was cold. She said she didn't want to be involved in any way and hung up quickly. My husband and I, with help from the law firm staff, organized the funeral despite the firm's uncertain future. We learned my brother had made arrangements for its continued operation. The funeral showed how respected my brother was, with many people from various fields attending and sending flowers. This made us realize once again how great he was. My younger son felt regret for not being adopted, especially seeing the influential people who came to pay their respects. He didn't realize how amazing his uncle was. I was a pallbearer at the funeral, but nobody asked why my sister-in-law wasn't there, and her absence went unmentioned. It seemed like we were the only ones who knew about their marriage. They had skipped a wedding ceremony and went straight to their honeymoon, which might be why even some relatives were unaware. After the funeral, we invited everyone to my brother's house to thank them and share a meal. Just as we were reflecting on our loss, my sister-in-law showed up in a bright pink coat, drawing attention. It was a difficult time filled with mixed emotions, from pride in my brother's accomplishments to sadness over his passing and frustration with the unresolved issues he left behind. When my sister-in-law arrived at the end of the funeral, she announced loudly that she would inherit my brother's $50 million estate and house, as they had no children. Her declaration was met with laughter from my brother's coworkers, confusing everyone. She demanded to know why they were laughing, calling them rude. One lawyer then revealed that she and my brother were officially divorced, and that the divorce settlement had been finalized the day before he fell ill. This news shocked everyone, especially when it became clear she was expecting to inherit despite the divorce. As the discussion unfolded, it was revealed that she was supposed to pay alimony because her affair had caused the divorce. She protested, claiming she had no one to pay alimony to, but the lawyers corrected her, stating that as my brother's sole inheritor, I would be the one to receive it. It was a moment of realization for me and her. The rules of inheritance were not in her favor. She tried to argue that she should still get half of the estate now that the divorce was settled. However, a lawyer pointed out that my brother had already compensated her during the divorce, and that the house, purchased before their marriage, was not subject to division. Despite her attempts to assert herself, mentioning a life insurance policy she thought she was still the beneficiary of, a lawyer quickly noted that my brother, being cautious, likely changed the beneficiary after the divorce. Her attempt to secure a position of advantage amidst a crowd that was clearly not on her side was bold yet ultimately futile, as legal facts and my brother's foresight protected his assets from being claimed under false pretenses. When I stumbled upon my brother's life insurance policy among his important documents, a moment of tension arose as my sister-in-law snatched it from my hands to eagerly verify the beneficiary's name. Her anticipation quickly dissolved into disappointment when it became clear that the policy named me, not her, as the beneficiary. In a burst of frustration, she vented her true feelings, lamenting her marriage to my brother under the mistaken belief of his wealth, and now facing the reality of receiving minimal financial benefits and the obligation of paying alimony. It was a confession of regret and disillusionment. In response, one of my brother's lawyers present during this exchange remarked that my brother had expressed similar sentiments about his decision to follow a marriage counselor's advice, viewing it as a grave error. This was a perspective my brother had never shared with me directly, but had openly discussed with his colleagues, revealing a side of his thoughts and feelings I had not been privy to. Following the revelation of her unsuccessful attempt to secure a fortune through the marriage, my sister-in-law found herself in a precarious financial situation, obliged to fulfill the alimony payments in installments. Without a steady income, she desperately sought employment. However, her lack of work experience and commitment quickly led her to abandon the job market. Reverting to her previous strategy, she registered again with a marriage counseling agency, aiming to entrap another wealthy individual. Unfortunately for her, her scheme was short-lived. The man she targeted detected her deceit and took legal action, leading to her arrest for attempting marriage fraud. This incident came to light when I inquired about the alimony payments that had never commenced. The lawyer from my brother's firm informed me of her arrest and the unlikely prospect of recovering any alimony in the foreseeable future. While the financial aspect of the alimony was of little concern to me, the principle of the matter was paramount. I harbored no interest in the money itself, but rather in seeing justice served for her exploitation of my brother's intentions and legacy. I wished for a thorough investigation into her actions, hoping that any other fraudulent activities would be uncovered and adequately addressed in court. In the wake of these events, my family and I transitioned into a new phase of our lives, moving into the spacious house my brother had left behind. This significant inheritance transformed our living situation, moving us from an apartment to a residence that offered more than just physical space. It represented a legacy and a foundation for the future. My eldest son, inspired by the legal wranglings he witnessed and motivated by a desire to uphold his uncle's legacy, dedicated himself to his law studies with renewed vigor and aspiration. He saw in his uncle's colleagues a model for the type of lawyer he aspired to become, one committed to justice and integrity. However, amidst the family's collective uplift from the inheritance, my younger son harbored feelings of disappointment, half-jokingly expressing a wish that he had been the one adopted by our uncle, thereby positioning himself as the direct inheritor of the estate. His comment, tinged with jest, nonetheless revealed an undercurrent of regret and what-if scenarios that lingered in his mind, a reflection of the complex emotions and dynamics that the legacy and its aftermath had stirred within our family.